And Stephen, on that, can you talk, what is the goal here? Well, what should the American people look forward to? What is the hope and dream that we're trying to pursue?
So if you went to a store in America in, say, the 1950s, and you looked at where the products were made, it would have said made in the USA. That would have been the stamp you would have seen on everything, from the toys that your children buy, to the clothes that you wear, to the cars that you buy, and everything in between. If you grew up in the 1980s, you would have seen a lot of things still stamped made in the USA, but a lot less. By the time you get to the early 2000s, after NAFTA, after China's entry into the World Trade Organization, after other disastrous trade deals, it started to look more like we see it now, where you go to the store and everything is stamped made in the foreign country. Made in Romania, made in Thailand, made in Cambodia, made in Malaysia, made in China, but not made in the USA. So that means those good, high-paying jobs that should be here in America are not here in America. At the same time, it also means that for a lot of the more advanced manufacturing jobs, these are essential industries that can be converted at a moment's notice to core national security needs. And so when you don't have those factories, you don't have the training and you don't have the workforce to be able to meet our nation's needs in a time of an emergency. So we are outsourcing to other countries the things that we need to keep America safe. The end result of this is going to be far more high-paying manufacturing jobs. These are jobs where you can support a family, you get a retirement plan, you get a pension, you have good health care, you're paid well above what you would consider to be the living wage for these new advanced manufacturing jobs. These are jobs you can build a family and a community around. At the same time, it's going to relieve inflation because it's actually the most cost-effective to make things in the United States of America. People don't think about this, but all those products you see on these store shelves that are shipped from thousands of miles away, we're paying the cost of all that shipping built into the price of the good. So it's actually more economically efficient, particularly with advanced manufacturing techniques, to have these factories in the United States, near where you live, putting products on your store shelves, not having to ship things all over the globe. So you're actually going to see prices go down because our products are being built and manufactured here in the United States. The most important point to understand is that tariffs do not apply to any product that is made in the United States. So the original sin of how the modern economy in America is structured, the president talks about more than anything else. And I guess to Karoline's point about the overall economic vision, the original sin was that we created a tax system that punished you for making something in America and rewarded you for making something in China or a foreign country. So in other words, if you had your factory in America, you paid a sky-high corporate tax rate, you were beaten to death with regulation, you had radically unaffordable energy prices, and Washington just in every way made your life miserable.
And the political class didn't do anything about it. They allowed it to happen.
Correct.
Well,
they sat by and watched it happen for decades.
They actually wanted the opposite to happen, especially if you look at the 90s when we had NAFTA, we had the WTO, we had the entry of China into the WTO. The goal very clearly was to remove U.S. tariff and trade barriers to make it easier for people to outsource to China. Because once we gave China what we call permanent normal trade relations, all of your manufacturers in the United States who are thinking in short terms, in terms of quarterly earnings and that kind of thing, they said, listen, now I can go move my factory from Indiana or wherever, I can put it in China, I can put it in Mexico, and I know I will have sure access to the U.S. market. Today, President Trump is saying the best place to make American products and sell American products is here in America. If you make in America, you're not going to have a tariff.
Think about how pernicious that deal is that he's describing that was made. This was done by the Bushes, this was done by the Clintons, this was done by many American administrations.
Republicans and Democrats.
Republicans
Correct.
and Democrats. They said to the factory owner, if you really want to be competitive, you need to move your factory to China. That's the best way to sell into America. And so all of a sudden you're living in a community where one day there's these thriving factory towns, and the next day all the factories are in Shanghai. And so my point about the original sin, it was the sin of saying that we were going to give the most favorable treatment to foreign production, the least favorable treatment to American production. It's completely inverted, right? So the president is saying today is the opposite of that. If you have your factory in America, you pay no tariff, we are going to reduce your taxes, and we're going to reduce your regulations and reduce your energy costs. So you're going to get the best possible deal but you have to do it here.
And to anyone questioning the effectiveness of the president's trade and tariff agenda, look at what has happened before Liberation Day. We have had billions and billions of dollars
Billions,
worth of
almost 2.7 now?
great investments, yes, into our country. You have some of the biggest companies in the world like Apple and Hyundai announcing investments in American communities. That are jobs in these communities, that's manufacturing in these communities. Those are American families who are going to now be able to live the American dream because of these investments, and the tariffs haven't even been implemented. So President Trump is serving as America's businessman in chief, America's negotiator in chief, by encouraging and incentivizing, for once, finally, for these companies to do business here. We have the labor, we have the resources, we have the best market in the world. There's no reason we shouldn't have a president who's trying to champion America and America First policies.
And Karoline, he had identified the problem, and he's got a solution. But you spoke to this before. Tariffs are a big part of the solution here, but it's not the only part.
Right.
Companies coming in, we've all been sitting in meetings with him where he says, what is your problem for coming back? What's getting in your way? Is it regulations? Let's solve that problem. The president he talked about it in a press conference this week. He had Stellantis, big car manufacturer, some of the best brands that there is. And he says, what is your problem? He says, all the regulations. You have California that's just crippling car manufacturing with their erroneous green new scam regulations. We need to pull them back. The president gets on the phone. He wants to bring companies back. He wants to bring jobs back. He wants to bring wealth back. He wants to make things more affordable. Jamison, how is he doing that?
Well, let's remember that he has a great track record. If you look at the first term, the president used tariffs to great effect, and he coupled it with great tax bill, great energy policy, all things we're talking about now. And what happened in the first term? Inflation went down, unemployment went down, real median household income went up for every demographic. I mean, this is incredible. We had manufacturing jobs went up, so we know it can be done. He's already done it before. We're a couple months in, we're already doing it now. He knows exactly how to use the tools of the economy, whether they're trade tools and tariffs or other tools, to really make sure that America can be competitive, that American workers can have good jobs, and American families can have prosperity in their communities where they live.
And we want to wrap this up. So, Stephen, Karoline, some last messages. What do you think the biggest takeaway of today is, and what should the American public look forward to?
Well, I think at a fundamental philosophical level, when you talk about America first, it gets down to this. Who should have priority access to the U.S. market? Should it be the factory that's located in Cleveland, or should it be the factory that's located in Beijing? That's the fundamental question. The radical left corporate media, the globalist corporate media that is attempting to criticize this plan take the view that the best place to put your factory should be in Beijing or Shanghai or Bangkok or anywhere but the United States of America. The president's view is we should do everything in our power to make it so that the best place to put your factory is in an American town. So we get all the benefit. We get the economic benefit, we get the social benefit, we get the community benefit, and most importantly, we get the national security benefit of having our critical industries here in America. And that's why we're calling it Liberation Day, because he is freeing us from a global economic system that has made us subservient to foreign nations and foreign powers.
And Stephen, on that point, means it's not a short-term solution. This is a philosophical belief in a future for America. And so for those looking for predictability, we hear that word a lot. You can predict this policy will remain in effect.
Correct. The predictability is the absolute certainty that this program will remain in effect, that we will continue to have policies and continue to have tariffs that will ensure that we have the national security needs of our country met, and that means American industry inside of the United States of America. It's actually the most stable and predictable policy because everyone in the world knows if I want to sell to America, just move your factory to America. Nothing is clearer, more stable, more predictable than that. You want to sell to Americans, then get your company, get your business, get your plant, and move it to America. That is the most predictable. And on top of that, we're going to have regulatory certainty, tax certainty, and energy certainty. So this is the definition of certainty and predictability. And to your point, it's not a short-term fix. It's the total realignment of the global trade system to put America first.
Karoline, what's our closing message here?
Closing message is every tax-paying citizen in this country should be incredibly excited about Liberation Day. President Trump is delivering on exactly what he said he was going to do for you. The golden age of America, more jobs, more wealth, more prosperity, more security right here at home.